what I want to do with you two is sit down with the personality test, let you read them, and you present to me what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then also present what the differences are between the two.
You're listening to the Uptown Girls Podcast. I'm your host, Martina Barley. Let's talk. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Uptown Girls Podcast. I have in the studio with me my right-hand man. Why don't you refresh everyone who you are?
Hello, everybody. For those who don't remember, I am Carla Brignoni, Martina's older and wiser sister, VP of Business Development for Uptown Marketing.
Yes, and today is our second attempt at filming what I believe has the potential to be our most valuable episode, our MVE. We have one of our favorite clients from Houston, Texas, Noah LaBauve, on with us today. Say hello, Noah.
How's it going, guys?
So one thing that Noah is really good at and has helped me a lot in my business is training and developing team, right? And I think that most business owners would agree that's one of the biggest struggles they have is finding team, training team, making sure the right people are in the right positions and keeping them motivated, really. But something that's even harder than training a team member is training a team member to be a leader, whether it's a manager, a team leader, somebody you just want to step up and take over more control. That's a completely different skill than training somebody to just, do a role. So I think because that's something a lot of our clients and just, other business owners struggle with, it would be great to have somebody that is so good at it kind of walk us through training and developing a leader, because the best business owners are really just the best delegators, and you can't be a good delegator unless you have the right people in place. So Noah's going to talk to us all about how he recruits people, how he makes sure they're in the right positions, how he turns them into effective leaders within his business. And just for fun, we're going to do this almost like a little role play where we do this with Carla and I, because Carla and I are obviously both leaders at Uptown Marketing, and we have totally different personality styles. So we're going to be utilizing personality tests on both of us, and Noah's going to teach us how you would train both of us to become effective leaders and both of us to work together. So, Noah, what would you say is the biggest difference that you have to pay attention to when you're recruiting for a leader versus just recruiting for a regular team member?
I think the biggest difference is the fact that most people recruit and hire for the position they need today, and not the position they're going to need in 4, 5, 6 years. They hire entry-level people instead of hiring leaders. So going forward is, if you want someone to be a leader one day, hire leaders from the beginning. Leaders that need development, that need training, that need a little bit more. Put them in an entry-level position and let them grow out of it, and let them understand that where you are today should not be the same place you're going to be in 3 or 4 years if you do your job the right way. Because at some point, you're not coming to work my organization or your organization or any of them for money. You're coming to work for growth and development. The money's going to come as your development comes. And if you are working for money, there's a lot of places you can make a lot more money a lot easier. So what do you want out of life? And I think if you talk to most people, especially your younger 20-year-olds, they're all going to say that they want growth, they want development, they want to feel like what they do matters. And I think when you can provide a culture that does that, it just takes care of itself, because the people that don't want that growth and development, the rest of your team will weed them out.
How do you identify in the recruiting, interviewing, hiring process who is somebody that you can turn into a really strong leader and who's somebody that might just be a great team member?
The self-awareness. When you look at the biggest deficit we have among team members, is self-awareness. I think on people and just on humans, most people are not self-aware of their own strengths or weaknesses, and some are a little full of themselves and others are a little delusional. I mean that from the standpoint of, I always say, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So, listen twice as much as you talk. And when I'm speaking with someone, the talent I'm really looking for someone is, can they read me? And can they read and listen to what we're talking about and really hear the message and hear the conversation? And is it organic? Do I have to go through this little list of questions and go through it as, well, tell me about the time you did this? Well, it's so canned and so, to me, Saturday night version of them. And I want the Monday morning version. I want an organic conversation that person can listen and talk to me and pretty much understands they're going to answer every question I may possibly ever ask before I asked it. And to me, that's just important because the people that are really good leaders, it's hard to teach that characteristics. It's hard to teach how to listen to people and really motivate and manage those people. And some people naturally have it. You can teach it, but you have to have a certain skill level just from the word go. And I think that results back from self-awareness.
Where do you think that other agents, business owners in general, go wrong in this process, like specifically on the hiring and recruiting side of it?
I think they hire for today. I've done it in the past. Sometimes I still catch myself doing it. I need a person that can do this job at this capacity. And all the people we're interviewing, they're just that level. And unfortunately saying, you know what, can that person one day become a leader in my organization? Can that person take their manager's job? And that's truly the test that we really want to strive to is when we interview someone, can they take the next manager or the manager above that person's job? And if the answer is no, then our answer is no as well now. Because if we can't see that person, and I have an interview panel of 3 or 4 people when we do it, and it's all the people that are going to be managing that person at some level. And I'll ask them, I'm honest, you think they could take your job one day? Or you think they could make you a better version of you by trying to take your job? And if the answer is not yes, then our answer should be no. Because we're not hiring entry-level salespeople or entry-level service people. You need to hire leaders. I need to hire people that would one day run one of my agencies. And if I can't get that, then I'm really probably have expectation issues.
Yep. Okay, so let's switch it up to start talking about the personality test. I love them. Way back when I started my business and I was hiring and recruiting people, Noah sent me a bunch of different versions, and they're really good at making you more self-aware, number one. It's great to see, wow, these are all the traits that I have as a person, but as an employee, as a leader. So they're great for yourself, but as any type of leader or manager, they're also really good to say, okay, that's what's going to motivate this person. I can't say this in this style to this person. It's really good at putting, I don't want to say putting people into boxes, but almost, just teaching you different things about each team member and how to interact with them differently. So what are some of your favorite personality tests to use?
I'm a big fan of DISC. I've always been a big fan of DISC just because it's been around for so long. So many people use it. So many companies like Dave Ramsey, Tony Robbins, companies that I respect, use those as part of their organization. So whenever I'm having a meeting and I need to talk about the difference in personalities, it's really easy for me to go to those companies, pull their test, see how they're using it in their organization to both coach and mentor their people. So I don't have to recreate the wheel. I like Talent Click is another program we use, which is individually designed for what I'm looking for as a service and salesperson, which is really, really funny because we had it programmed and a bunch, probably 2-3 dozen agents had our best people of each individual position test. And that's the kind of marker for these people, right? So it's meant for what we were specifically looking at. So that when I had other people, like I had you two taking tests, you look at outbound sales, account manager, and the measure didn't rank really high. Like the measure was like, oh my God, I wouldn't hire either one of these girls, but they're both amazing. And I really didn't even want to show it to you. I was like, oh damn, she knows enough. She's going to know. Because at the top of the ranking, it's like outbound sales, 50%. And I'm like, I don't talk to people who have 80. And I'm like, I'm like, how to walk out of the test. But then when I look into the test, the things that matter to me, the things I really judge people on, y'all scored insanely high on. And it's like dominance, achievement focus, outgoing. Some of the things that I don't focus on a lot is like empathy. Well, I'm a very direct person, so I don't mind direct people. So on the testing, a lot of times that doesn't score well. But I think it's not meant to be an end-all be-all. It's meant to make sure that you have another test or another set of eyes looking at them in a different way that may help you make judgments on that. And we really don't use them in the hiring, or the value to me is not the hiring as much, because I hate the way this sounds, but I'm a gut person. If I don't like you in the first 30 seconds, I'm probably not going to like you in the first 30 days. And it sounds so cliche and artificial, we call it the windshield test. I can't put you in my car and drive for 2 hours and us have a really great conversation, then you don't probably belong with me. You're just not there. So where I find the personality tests that are fun is DISC and some of the others like the ones you took with my personality, which is kind of a spin off the same program. But what it is I like it for a training tool and for a self-awareness. So that way that person can read their answers to their questions and then really see what their strengths and weaknesses are. And just, do they agree with it? Do they not agree with it? How can we use those together? Because you two, obviously sisters, and have similar personalities, but have a couple things that are really different. And I think that's the value that you both have. And, it's amazing. It's like someone helped you set the company up this way. But, obviously Martina's in the role she needs to be. And so is Carla because of those, 6 different structures of judging a personality. Well, 2 of them are greatly different from the 2 ladies, and you're in the position you should be, honestly, because of just those 2 things.
Well, we're going to get there. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Just so excited.
You love the personality test.
I love to talk about my personality.
Carla loves to be categorized, analyzed.
In a box. This is what it is. Okay.
Put Carla in a box. All right. So before we get into our specific personalities, you started a little bit on this, but touch a little bit more about where would you use these? You said not so much in hiring. So let's say it's our first day. You sit us down and say, here, go take these personality tests. And then what's going to happen next?
Well, so I don't think they're perfect, but so you take a personality test. And in my office, I don't do the frontline interviewing. I have an HR manager that does that. So she sends them a personality test. It comes back. Is it within range, right? Is it a service? Is it sales? Are we interviewing remotely the right person? And then to get in front of me, he has to sell me on why she likes them so much and the personality test to back it up. Because there are some of my best people that came in and they're like, boss, I know the personality test says, but I love this person. She's amazing. And I'm like, well, that's the gut check. You know what? And if that's stronger than the personality test, let's check it out. And let's interview them in person, because we do a phone interview, we do a Zoom interview or a Teams interview, so that we'll get another shot at them. And then if they pass that, they get in front of me. And at some point, all 3 mediums add up and did reflect what the personality test said as well, because some of the things we just may need to work on with that person. So it helps out overall.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you've hired Carla and I. Carla's going to run one office. I'm going to run the other office. We're going to have to work together. We're going to have to manage a team. We're also going to have to work with customers probably. I don't know how much goes into that, but we're going to have to work together and we're going to have to lead the team. So share a little bit about, first off, let's finish up on the personality tests. How would you utilize those with us to help us develop as leaders?
Okay. So I think it's basically the same 2 questions into one, right? Because I would do it the same way. And you're not going to listen. You listen to, all the stats change, but it's 90% of what comes out of your own mouth and 10% of it comes out of someone else's mouth. So at some point, it's a lot more powerful for someone to hear their own voice, especially when they hear their own voice trying to convince you of what you want them to do. So in these things, what I want to do with you 2 is sit down with the personality test, let you read them, and you present to me what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then also present what the differences are between the 2. And then we would lay out the job requirements and the different offices, for that individual example. This is the team at this office. This is the team at this office. So explain to me why you 2 think you deserve to be at one office versus the other, and where your skill sets are going to fit in to be successful. And how are you going to supplement your partner on that? And how are you going to shade your weaknesses on that? And really present the plan to me, so that way maybe I do get it wrong. Maybe I'll put you with a personality that's not good. But it's a lot easier if you made the decision, the commitment to, and we passed it by your colleague and made sure that that person also agrees on it. So we would have 3 sets of eyes, and we have a better success ratio of coming up with putting that person in the right position, because they're going to have adversity. They're going to struggle. We all do. But when we do, we need to make sure we have 100% ownership of that struggle, and knowing that, I expected this going in. So it's not a left field. It's not a blame game. It's, God forbid I'd have Carla and Martina fighting because Carla told Martina she had to work over here, and we have sister fights. That's just not how it works, right? It's a lot easier when we all agree, and then when we have adversity, we look back and go, well, we all were in the voting room on this, and we're all in together to fix it.
Okay, so let's do this. Should I read my personality test? I'll sum it up, but let's really do this if we're going to do it. I'm going to try to just sum it up, not get into every detail of it. So my personality is called the entertainer. These people who have vibrant experiences, engaging in life eagerly, and taking pleasure in discovering the unknown. They can be very social, often encouraging others into shared activities. So let's just do maybe strengths and weaknesses. Entertainer strengths: bold, aren't known for holding back, wanting to experience everything there is to experience, don't mind stepping out of their comfort zones when no one else is willing. Original, traditions and expectations are secondary to entertainers, if a consideration at all. Personalities love to experiment with new styles and constantly find ways to stick out in the crowd. Aesthetics and showmanship, not stopping at mere outfits, entertainers inject artistic creativity into their words and actions too. Every day is a performance, and entertainers love to put on a show. Practical, to entertainers, the world is meant to be felt and experienced. Entertainers prefer to see and do. Observant, with all the focus on the here and now, on doing and acting, it makes sense that entertainers are naturals when it comes to noticing real, tangible things and changes. Excellent people skills, talkative, witty, almost never run out of things to discuss. People with this personality type, happiness and satisfaction stem from the time they spend with people they enjoy being with. Okay, so I'll try to go even quicker on the weaknesses, because who really wants to talk about those? Sensitive, conflict averse. Entertainers sometimes try to ignore and avoid conflict entirely. Easily bored, poor long-term planners, unfocused.
Wow.
Good luck.
Anything you disagree with?
No, I actually think it's pretty spot on. Is there anything you would disagree with?
No, well, the only one, when I read further into yours, it said kind of what you just said about not long-term planning. I think to an extent you do have a little bit of a long-term vision. It might not be super refined or detailed, and you're not following up on it actively, but I think you do think in longer terms.
I found yours.
I got it too.
Oh, okay.
Thank
All right.
you, though.
Anything else before we move to Carla's?
No. Let's cover it on the back. Or Carla, obviously you disagree with that one thing, and I would actually agree with you on that, Carla, because I think she is maybe impatient short term, but when she really wants something long term, she's got an insane amount of patience for it, and I think that's where people kind of misjudge that personality, but also understand that that's a total different role than the CEO of a company. It's a different skill set.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you're up.
Okay, so mine is the executive. Executives are organized, practical, and level-headed people with a strong sense of responsibility. Assertive by nature, they eagerly assume leadership roles and skillfully unite people to work toward common goals. Value rules, structure, and tradition. They're excellent at bringing order to chaos and establishing guidelines for everyone to follow. Strengths are dedicated and hardworking, the masters of following through on a plan, often taking on responsibility for completing a task when others won't, and putting in the extra effort to see it through. Self-confident leaders, quite social, often naturally falling into leadership positions due to their excellent eye for detail and capacity to plan. Responsible caretakers with a high value placed on stability and security. Efficient organizers enjoy creating order from chaos. That's my favorite term to describe myself, is creates order from chaos. So I love that this is in there. What else? Weaknesses, difficulty with emotions. Although externally confident and happy, executives can struggle with emotional self-expression and understanding the emotions of others, especially when they seem illogical. Spot on. Inflexible, committed to finding the correct solution. The naturally driven approach that executives possess can lead to choosing the most efficient or time-proven strategy over all others. Reliant on structure, judgmental, and stubborn can lead to a my way or the highway attitude. And
wraps it up in a bow.
What was that?
Just wraps it up in a bow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There is very little that I disagree with in any of that. I think for the most part, it feels to me spot on, even the stuff that might not be the greatest.
I would agree. I would definitely agree. There's not one part of that the only thing I do think you struggle to, I don't want to say you struggle with empathy, because I don't think you struggle with empathy, but if you feel someone else's feelings are illogical, they're out.
Yeah, and I think it says struggle understanding the emotions of others. I don't think I necessarily don't understand. I think it's just...
You just don't care.
It's not that I don't care, but if the end goal, if their like emotion is getting in the way of getting the task or the job or whatever it is completed, that will supersede their emotion to me.
Yes. Okay.
Well, but think about it this way. Like you asked the question earlier about the personality test, which one's better, which one's not. The best one is the one you know. And I mean that from a standpoint of we're comparing that test versus DISC, talent click, all these tests, right? At some point, the one that you feel most comfortable with, that you can use and use like a tool, to me, that's the best one. I mean, there's not much different like an iPhone or an Android, right? Either Android person or iPhone person, but at the end of the day, if you know how to use both the devices at a certain level, they both do the same thing, even though they're just totally different people.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. You guys, it's interesting because I feel like I'm usually very like optimistic and like, oh, like I can work with anything. When I read these two personality types, and maybe I'm biased because I know the struggles that we do get into, you guys were both like, oh, these two personalities are so complementary to each other. But what I noticed was, while they're very similar in that we're both dominant, achievement focused, confident, whatever, where we struggle is areas that can lead to a lot of conflict, which is that I love chaos. I'm most comfortable in chaos. I like to figure it out as I go. I don't want structure. I don't want rules. I don't want to be put into a box. And you absolutely need structure, rules. You want to think it through. You want to plan it out. So I think that sometimes that causes us to butt heads a little bit. So
For sure.
how can we work with that?
I don't think you work with it. I think it's a beautiful marriage. That's what you should like. You should literally just describe, how do I find someone that compliments me and makes me a better version of me? It's your sister, right? Because you have the personality of, that entrepreneur. I think personality for yours was like Richard Branson, right? They just go and they just roll. And then Carla comes behind you and picks up all the chaos and organizes it. If the reason you don't get along on that is because you shouldn't, because someone's got to pull the reins back and someone's got to spur the horse. It's just how it works. If you have two people pushing the gas and nobody pushing the brake, it's going to be a car wreck.
That's a great
disaster.
point. That's a great point. All right. So you basically sit us down. We'd go through our own personality tests, say, do we agree or disagree with these things about ourselves? And then you got to kind of find where they meet and find where they're beneficial to each other, right?
Absolutely. Find where they're beneficial, like for you two. That you're spot on with that personality difference. And that's why if you want to just label it, because I know when you read off of that stuff, it's a little hard, especially for the listeners. Carla came back as a CEO or executive. Martina came back as a performer entrepreneur. Well, those are great different strengths. But also once we lay that down and go, okay, now we know what we do well. So who are you managing and what do you not do well? And how do we deal with the people that have opposite personalities? When I look at your two personalities on both tests are 80% the same. The challenge is what we have is we can always get along with people that we have similar personalities to. We may butt heads only because we're stubborn, because we don't like looking at ourselves. But what we really have a hard time with is people that don't think the same way we think. So it's, how are you going to deal with someone that has a total different personality? And what does that look like? And what work do we need for that? And how can you help each other on that? So, with Carla, I mean, she's going to have a hard time with people that are kind of a little softer and a little more fluffy, say those words, where Martina may not, and she has a little bit more sympathy on that because she's kind of likes to dream a little bit. Well, how are you going to work with each other? How are you going to make sure you can coach each other up to help you be the best versions of you? In our office, we ask 3 things of people. 1, that you serve others as a service-minded leader. 2, you take 100% responsibility for your success. And the third one is making sure that you make the people around you the best version of them. Because if you can do those 3 things, it's all leadership driven. And if you can keep that as the number 1 goal, then it keeps all the petty arguments away. Because that's the toughest thing, is having to deal with someone that you do not understand.
Yeah, that's really good. So aside from the personality test, which we obviously see a lot of value in, what are some of the other tools, techniques, methods you use to teach any personality type to be a leader, whether that's alongside like a co-manager or whether that's just as a leader on their own?
So first of all, we use personality tests to educate each one. And then there's a couple of different exercises you can do on that. We can get into that later or whatever. But also, it's how does that person want to be coached? And what coaching does that person need? And so if you're a player on my team or player on any team, it's your responsibility for coaching your coach on how you best receive information. Because a lot of times it's not a message sent, it's a message received. Especially when you deal with insecurities, you deal with a little bit of cockiness, a little arrogance, a little bit of lack of self-awareness. It's what do you need? And, how do you want it received? So we have those meetings. We have those meetings monthly to look at it and go, what are you struggling with? And tell me, how do you like your coach? Or how do you like your coach's coach? And, what do I need to do to be a better person? Go ahead.
Just as an example, so if you have 2 different personality types like this, what are some of the ways you think that we need to be coached differently?
I think you need to be promoted on what you do well. So if we're looking at the entrepreneur and the performer of, let's just go out and tackle it. You know what? Let's do it. So where are you going to lean on that? And how are you going to grow your business? And what ideas do you have to grow the business and develop it, right? Because at some point, you're going to be the grower. You're going to be the person that's, hey, we're going to start a whole new division of apparel. And Carl's going to be the person going, that is not what we do here. We're in digital marketing. And then you have a conversation and you have an argument, right? I'm sure that's happened before. So for you, I keep encouraging you to dream. Let's bring all the things up. Let's look at it, but let's not necessarily dive into them. Let's table them a little bit. Let's come back to those dreams. And let's see how it fits into our year-long business plan or the 2-year business plan. And what does that look like? And then I would coach Carla on the backside of, sometimes you have to have patience with dreamers because the dreamers are who actually design the system. And, have a little patience with what she does. And then explain to them your lack of patience of why you don't want to entertain this and overly communicate with statistics and with what you found, not what they feel of why we do this and why we're successful. How do we pay all these salaries? How do we provide for people's families? What does that look like from a responsible standpoint? Because if this doesn't work and we use all our money, are you willing to take a pay cut because your idea didn't work? Because we don't have enough money to pay the new girl that we just hired. Are you willing to take the responsibility on? And I think that clear transparency and really looking at it for the strengths and weaknesses is that perfect blend.
That's good. Mm-hmm. So another thing that I thought of while you were talking, so there's in your industry specifically, and that's a lot of who listens to this podcast is insurance agents. There's 2 different management, let's call it leadership roles that you would be recruiting for. So one is going to be an agent aspirant, which explain that to somebody who doesn't know this industry.
Sure. An agent aspirant normally comes on. They work with an agency. They learn all the facets of the agency. They learn how to sell. They learn how to coach. They learn how to mentor. It's normally about a 3 to 5 year program from them knowing nothing. So pretty much getting an MBA into how to run an insurance agency. So they one day can launch their own insurance agency. And they think much differently a lot of times than someone that just came in and wants a sales job.
Okay. And then the second position would be like somebody you have a long-term office manager, somebody you want to stick around, be kind of the captain of the ship, but not leave the ship for their own ship kind of thing.
Sure. So I guess, what was the question on that again between the two?
So the question is basically, so two different things. First, I want to know, how do you recruit those two different positions and hire?
Yep. I let them decide. So I'm recruiting for leaders. I'm looking for leaders. I'm looking for people that want to become better and want to be in a place that has a culture that develops them and invests in them. Then I explain in the organization, these are the levels of what we can do. You can come to an organization, you can do sales, and you can help serve our clients and really help protect their families. And at one point, you could just deal with our internal clients, or you could run one of my agencies one day. So it's kind of the levels, the steps. So it's, if you come in and you have a passion, you have an ability to sell, then let's put you in that position. If you find that you have a talent and a passion to also manage and develop other people and do sales and be a player coach, we have that position. If you have ambitions and all the talent levels to be able to manage and coach and run an agency, we have a position for that too. And if you're just so damn arrogant that you have to have your name on the door and that's where you stop, we have a position for that too. And that's that agent aspirant. So really it's the same job. It's a leadership development. It's just, does that person have the ambitions or have the ability and have the resources to do their own agency one day? Because I don't like to treat them any different. I like to treat them exactly the same, because when you start treating them the same, you're looking at developing leaders, and you're not trying to put one in a box and treat one better than others, because it's not fair. Because what you're going to find is whatever most people come in and tell you is not where they end up. It's just not. I mean, how many people went to college and ended up using their degree for what they thought they were?
Oh, no, not me. Yeah.
I got two of my W's. I mean, no. I'm a real dummy. You know,
You're a chiropractor, aren't you?
I was a physical therapist, but I mean, just, it's one of those things. I treat them the same, but the leadership differences and the responsibility differences kind of start to change a little bit, because I am going to lose that agent aspirant. I am going to lose that person in 3 to 5 years. So I'm trying to put that person in a kind of assistant coach instead of the head coach position, just because selfishly, I want to lose you one day, and I'm giving you a full MBA version of how to do this. So at some point, I want you also coaching the coach. So that way you get the same experience, but I also don't lose a huge valuable asset whenever you walk out of the door in year 4 or 5.
What are some of the ways that you hold your upper level team, your managers, your sales captains, whoever, what are some of the ways you hold them accountable on a consistent basis?
Well, we are meeting freaks, unfortunately. We still old school instead of, we meet all the time. So my sales captains, and I have sales captains for both agencies, and I have service captains, because that's a total different creature. We're meeting weekly, and we sit down and say, you know, what's the strengths and weaknesses of your team right now? What do you need work on? What training do they need? What's your plan to train them? How do you need our influence of coming in? Because at the end of the day, numbers are numbers. And are your players positioned and coached well enough to hit the numbers? And if not, then what is the plan in place to be able to do that? And what help do you need from us? Because you may have someone that has all experienced players on the team. Well, you know what? At that point, you can execute. Or you may have 2 or 3 new people on your team. Can you handle that training load with your sales and everything else? So I'm really trying to coach them on how to be good leaders and good managers of people and themselves and their time, but also to be there as kind of that coach. Because as we explained, I can either be your coach or I can be your boss. But you're going to like one a hell of a lot more you're going to like the other, because once I go from coach role to boss role, it's a different conversation, and it's not going to be as healthy.
Do you think that you're a better coach or a better salesperson?
Salesperson.
Interesting. I thought you'd say coach.
Wouldn't you say the same about yourself?
Oh, 100%. But I think he's a very good coach. I don't really think I'm a very good coach. Interesting.
But I was a horrible coach when we first started. So I think I'm a decent coach now.
How do you get better without a coach? Because you don't have a coach, really.
I do. I was blessed enough that when I came in, I reached out to a lot of really good State Farm agents that were just nice enough to say yes. And they mentored me for my first 10 years of my career. I was always asking questions and asking, how can I become better and what can I do? And the amount of reinvestments in courses and classes and everything over time is where we are today. When I started out year one, I was so arrogant and cocky, I didn't care. I'm great at sales. I can sell anything. And what I realized is that you can only make X amount of money being good at sales, when leadership and coaching is where you really make your money. And I had to learn to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of times your best players don't turn out to be your best coaches because that coaching is a learned skill. And over many mistakes and many lost employees, and we still make them today, you just learn. I've been in business for 15 years, and we make mistakes all the time. And I think that's the value of it, is endorsing or embracing the mistake and embracing the fact that, and being honest and open. And I'm very open with my team. I'm very transparent. It's like, guys, I screwed that one up. That was totally on me. I didn't see that coming, and we're going to do a better job of it next time. And getting very systematic about that. And I think that authenticity goes a long way with your team, as well as other people, because when they see that you understand that you have a lot of room for improvement as well, but the number one things that you strive to become better. We say in the often perfect. I just need you to progress. I need you to get better every day. So let's work on that. And if you have the same ambition level and you put in the same work, you're on that journey together. And I think it's been fun.
How would you, if you had a team member that is the most experienced person on your team, and she or he doesn't see themselves necessarily as a leader on the team, but they have the experience, the knowledge, that you think they have it, but they don't think they have it. How do you get them to see their own potential?
Okay, so let me make sure we're seeing this right. It's a person that has experience, that has knowledge, but doesn't believe in themselves.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Wow, that's a total different one than the other way around. Normally you have people that have experience and knowledge, but just don't have leadership ability, but they believe they do. Okay, so that person just lacks self-confidence. One of the activities we can do with that would be is set them up and let them explain what their strengths are. Make them write them, put them on paper, and then write down all their weaknesses on paper. And then let's do that about the other two people that they feel are better than them. And then let's compare that. Let's look at it and go, if you feel these other two people that you've been working with that have more talent, more knowledge than you do, let's look at it and let's see. And let's really dissect those things and compare them so that person understands that, you know what? They are really good. And everyone has strengths and weaknesses. And at some point, there's some we can overlook and some we need to focus on. But if that's a confidence thing, then we need to build them a system. So once we identify where they are, then we establish where they want to be. And then let's make a system of checks and balances that they can check small checks off daily or weekly or even monthly of what's giving them confidence to reassure them that they are the person that you see they can be.
That's very helpful. Mm-hmm. All right. How about if you have somebody that is also very experienced? She knows she's very experienced. She's so good and so experienced that she's almost doing one of these a little bit. You know what I mean? Just like kind of taking her foot off the gas a little bit, and you want her to just keep absolutely hitting the pedal like she can.
You're stuck, right? Because you want their success or you want them to make more money more than they do. And at some point, you need to have a honest conversation with her and find out how much is enough and how much leadership and what roles they want to play. And then figure out, is it the fact that person doesn't want, are they sitting back like this? Or do you may have expectation problems with that person? Because maybe they're an all-star and you know what? They are. And you just need to find other all-stars to complement that one.
I just want to state for the record, Both of these are all-stars. These hypothetical people are all-stars. They are the two most valuable people on the team, this hypothetical team. I'm trying to utilize this time to make myself a better leader and learn how I could do a better job with them. Okay? So no one get
Very
upset.
publicly.
Very publicly. I don't care. I don't care. Okay, so this has all been so helpful. But our main focus is always marketing and sales. So I want you to tell us across any industry your number one marketing tip.
Well, get involved in something that you're passionate about, and market with that. Try not to get involved in things that you don't have a sincere authenticity for, because it's going to show. I'm a car guy. I love cars. I love hunting. I love fishing. I love those three things. I can get involved in. If I'm involved in any events or any organizations or any meetings, for that instance, that I really just don't have a passion for, then it's going to show. I'm a salesperson for better or worse. And at some point, you can see it on my poker face. It is horrible. I'm just sitting there just waiting for it to end for that meeting. But when I do care about something and I'm passionate about it, then you're going to see 100% buy-in, and it shows. And I think that's the best marketing, is whenever you can be involved with something that you're passionate about. So it's not work anymore. It's just, it's a love for what you're doing. People gravitate towards it because they see someone that authentically has something in common with them.
Very good. Give us, across any industry, coming from a great salesperson himself, what is your number one sales tip?
Listen more than you speak. The opposite of what I do in this podcast, right? Listen twice as much as you speak, because at some point, if you can become a really good person that asks really good questions and just listen, most people are going to tell you what they want and need. And if you can fulfill that need, then you're going to add value to that person, and do a great job on them. I think that, we're talking podcast. One of my favorite podcasts to listen to is Joe Rogan, because I think, for better or worse, he asks amazing questions, and across different boards of things he does not know anything about, but he authentically listens, and whether he agrees or not, he really passionately wants to know why they think the way they think. And I think that is an insanely good talent to have. Something I'm working on that obviously I need a lot of work to do. But I think when you can get to that, it's your ability to not agree with people and still understand and listen to their side of it.
Do you think, now you've been on this podcast, do you think I have potential to be the next Joe Rogan?
Yes.
Good answer. Carla, do you have any last questions? Any last words? I mean, this has been so good. I've gotten to be able to use you as a mentor, whether you agreed to be or not. You just became mine. And I think you just have so much wisdom, especially areas that I lack, which is training, coaching, culture sometimes. So I wanted everybody else to get to hear that too. What were you saying?
I think this has been particularly helpful for you and I because of the stage that we're in with Uptown. We're just approaching the 5-year mark, and I don't really think up until this point we've done a lot of thinking in terms of, I'm looking to hire the next leader, right? Like, we are the leaders right now, and kind of the focus has been, okay, we need this person to fill this task. I need this role to be taken care of. But I personally, and I don't really think you have thought a ton in our interviews or anything like that as far as the next 5 years or the next 10 years in terms of, we need people underneath us to then lead teams where we're not going to be in the day-to-day like we have been. So I think this was super beneficial and would be for anybody who's only a few years into any business, an agency, whatever the case may be. It's just kind of like a mindset shift that we're going to have to start thinking more about than we have. So it was very, very helpful.
Yeah, I don't think at all. I haven't thought about the future at all. I try not to think. I just do.
Some of your better leaders are the ones that work themselves out of a job. Look at like Elon Musk. I was listening to a podcast with him on it. And I mean, he's managing 5 different multi-billion-dollar companies that are cutting edge in all portions, and trying to really get to that point and bounce around. Well, imagine the amount of leadership he has underneath him to be able to run companies of that level. Companies that, like SpaceX, is basically ran more better space travel than NASA. I mean, it's just to think of that level. It's pretty amazing concept.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. Like I said, well, maybe people do realize it, but something I'm realizing more and more is like the best business owners are just really good at bringing up leaders, so they don't have to work. So yeah, that's where I would like to leave it. Just, our goal is to not work.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, Noah, thank you. This was my favorite episode, I think.
Oh, yeah,
and
this
a
was
very
so fun.
valuable one. Do you have any last words for us?
I do not. Sorry, the first time didn't happen as well as it should have, but I've been back and we put ourselves together and we
really made this happen. We really made it happen, and it was great. Well, thank you so much for listening.
You.
The next episode will probably not be as good, but we hope you'll tune in anyways.